I'm Susan Odell. Welcome to the Foodell Kitchen. Bakeware. This is stuff that you put in the oven. You're going to cook with. You might cook sweet dishes or savory dishes, but there are certain types of cookware that you need for cooking things that go in the oven. First of all, let's look at the cookware that I recommend that either comes typically in glass, in porcelain, or in some type of stoneware, earthenware, that beautiful pottery that you might find at a great art show, or that maybe you even make yourself. I like to use these for things like casseroles. A casserole dish and the dish casserole have the same name, sort of like a tagine. A tagine is a type of dish, and it's also what you eat. The dish is called tagine. So this would be a casserole. It's nice and deep. It could also be a good souffle pan. This is made out of porcelain, and it has an unglazed bottom. That's a typical characteristic of a porcelain dish. You want it unglazed for better heat conductivity. The only thing you need to worry about with these care-wise is don't soak the bottom in water. Otherwise, it'll absorb too much water and it's not good for the pan. These come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Typically, I like these because of the color. I think they're pretty. They can go straight from the oven to the table. This is a much more affordable option. This is a good old-fashioned Corningware pan, which you can buy all over the place, and they work really well. And then also the small-sized ramekins. These are very inexpensive. They're nice to have around. You can make individual-sized desserts or put dip in there for a cocktail party, anything you like. Good to have around, but the same thing, they're all varieties of souffle dishes or casserole dishes. This I would call a gratin dish. Again, it's got a beautiful color, something that can go straight from the oven to the table. That's optional. This is made out of porcelain. You could also, again, use glass or stoneware. But why it's a gratin dish is because it has a nice wide mouth on it and a kind of a narrow or a not so deep side. Think of potatoes au gratin. Gratin, depending on where you come from is how you'll say it. It's something that you could put under the broiler and get a nice crispy top on, so that when you serve it, you get breadcrumbs or whatever it is that you've got, potatoes or maybe even mac and cheese. It's a gratin dish. This is a smaller version of the same thing. If you're cooking for one or two, this is a great size. This is a Le Creuset brand. They're typically known for their cast iron cookware, but they also make some great porcelain things as well. This is Emile Henry, beautiful stuff. My last pretty dish, or one that you can go straight from the oven to the table, is a pie dish. This is a 10-inch pie dish, and if you want to make something that you don't want to take out and put on a beautiful decorative plate, but you want to serve directly from the pan, buy a decorative pie dish and that'll work really well for that. Let's move on to the metal pans. There's a variety of metal baking pans, and you're going to want to get a few of these just to keep in your standard kitchen arsenal. First of all, this is a baking tray. You call for these all the time. Sweet dishes, savory dishes, you roast vegetables on these, you cook cookies on these. I don't buy nonstick baking trays, although you can find them with a nonstick coating. Instead, I use the same baking trays over and over again, and I just cover them with parchment paper if I'm making something that's going to stick. These are muffin tins. Who doesn't need muffin tins? I actually use the mini muffin tin more frequently than the big muffin tin, just because I find that the desserts that I make and savory dishes are a little more palatable when they're small. So either one, you can think sweet muffins like banana nut. You can also make things like popovers or even individual desserts, mini cheesecakes and things in muffin tins. They're very handy to have around. This is a springform pan, and you make typically cheesecake. The reason it's a springform is because it is a spring-loaded pan that once you've baked your cake inside it, you can carefully lift off the outside ring and have a beautiful cake where you can see all of the individual layers. You want to make something in a springform pan that would be hard to get out of your typical cake pan. Cake pans come in a couple of sizes, usually 8 inches or 9 inches, sometimes 10. You can get square ones, you can get oval ones, but your typical round cake pan is something good to have on hand also. This is a tart pan, sort of different from a pie pan because the tart pan has a removable bottom. When you make a pie with beautiful pastry that you want to serve and you want to be able to show the pastry crust, use a pie tin that you can then pop the pie out really easily and cut it, and it'll look beautiful on the plate. Some other standard pans that you're going to want to have, you can call this your brownie pan or your bar cookie pan, because that's what I use mine mostly for. It's just metal and it's a 9 by 13 pan, standard size called for all the time. Either that or an 8 by 8 pan if you're making a smaller batch. This is a loaf tin, which you can make meatloaf in, you can make your banana nut bread in, lots of things go in a loaf pan. Another one, good workhorse pan to have around the kitchen. And finally, you need a roasting pan. If you're going to make any kind of roast chicken, roast turkey, roast beef, you want to have a nice big pan that's really sturdy. This one has handles on the side so that I can lift it when it's very heavy, and when it's very hot, it makes it easy to maneuver. You'll also want a metal rack that goes inside of the roasting pan, and your meat will sit on the metal rack so it doesn't rest in all of its juices, and then it'll get nice and brown and crisp on top, and the juices will stay in the pan. You can make a fabulous gravy with it afterwards. So this may all seem a little overwhelming and like a whole lot of stuff that you're supposed to store in your kitchen, but start small. If you're just starting out cooking, buy one dish at least that's colorful that you can take straight from the oven to the table. Buy a couple of baking trays because you're going to use those a lot, and then maybe buy a 9 by 13 pan, because again, if any kind of dessert that you make, you're going to probably make in there, and that's a good thing to have around. After that, just figure out what your baking needs are. If you love to bake, you're going to want more of these dishes, and if you typically cook things on the stovetop, stick to the pots and pans. Bon appetit.